Welcome back, everybody. Another episode of Power Tips, and we're actually going to revisit a previous topic because we did an episode not too long ago on the You Say It, AI Builds It for Power Automate. And after that video, we got lots of commentary and some reaction to that. And it turns out we've had some changes made, not necessarily just because of our video, but we were actually contacted. Heidi was contacted shortly after that and said, hey, we saw your feedback in the video. Give it another shot because we've made some changes. And we watched a recent video from Phil Topness and Joe Fernandez, and looks like some great enhancements have been rolled out. So we would love to dig in today. So I'll turn it over to Heidi, who's going to drive.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Malcolm. So we are at make.powerautomate.com, which remember, you can't get to this from make.powerapps.com. Right now, it's only at make.powerautomate.com. I'm in my correct environment, always a good thing to do. And we're going to go to create. So in the create area, we have you describe it, AI builds it. Now, as a general recap, we had 3 suggestions to Microsoft in our last video. 1, we want to see approvals. 2, we want to see Dataverse. 3, I wanted to see Gravity Forms. That one was a joke. I don't think it's here. But why don't we try to do something with Dataverse? Do you guys have a suggestion of something we could do?
I mean, we could just start simple. Well, go ahead, Kylie.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say just like send an approval when a Dataverse opportunity is lost.
Send me an approval when a Dataverse opportunity is lost. So not
Nice.
quite, but Dataverse is here. Isn't that cool? Interesting.
Yeah.
Dataverse
good.
legacy. Okay. This is not what I want.
Okay, back to Malcolm's idea.
I was
So-
going to make it up as I went. So
Too much.
So
What if we do like when I get an email, create a record in Dataverse? Not that we'd use it for that because we would use the Outlook app. But
cool.
when a new email
like
arrives,
that.
add a new row. Let's take a look, and then we'll go back and do what Malcolm wants to check out.
Do you know the difference? So the first example you used, it pulled up I think that was the old
legacy.
The legacy,
do.
yeah, the Dataverse, right? And so
Yep.
interesting. I wonder what controls that.
That is because the new Dataverse doesn't have that trigger. That trigger only exists in legacy.
Oh,
It's the
because it was
only time you
reversed.
use
The
legacy.
example was reversed.
It's
Got
very
it. That makes sense.
confusing. That's why there's 2.
Yeah.
All right, so it came to our authentication. So that's awesome. Ooh, Microsoft Dataverse table name. That's kind of fun. Add a custom item right from here. Does that mean I can add a custom table in Dataverse from this?
I'm not sure I like that.
Yeah, that feels dangerous.
What is this?
Wow.
No.
What happens if we do that? When a new email arrives, could not find table with name. Okay, well, that's good.
Okay, it doesn't actually create it.
So our first suggestion would maybe be, let's change the wording there.
And do not let people create tables from all kinds of random places, please.
Right? All right.
Which
so
technically they can't, but it gives it the illusion that they could.
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to go back.
If that's where we were headed, we want to be very clear.
Yeah. Yes, good call.
All right. So that was a cool, simple one. Malcolm, what do you have? Let's try something else.
I like that. I like the idea of the approval on something. So can we come up with an example where I don't know off the top of my head, there's so much pressure.
When a form is submitted,
Yeah.
start an approval.
Yeah, okay, so that's the standard. I was thinking of Dataverse examples, but let's extend this. So start an approval, and then can we add to that and say something along the lines of and then add a row to Dataverse? So maybe upon approval, add a row in Dataverse.
Oh, it might help. If
well,
I
let's
see Dataverse.
let's leave it. Let's see what happens.
Let's peek this. When a new response is submitted, so again, it's still just using Microsoft Forms, no Gravity Forms yet. Get a response, start and wait for approval for each, get my profile and send an email. So it thought we wanted to send an email instead of add a row in Dataverse.
Which
But
might
I
be
still like how it's going. It's getting your response from your form,
Yeah.
and then it's handling the conditions for your approval. And I think that's interesting.
I do too. So this is twice we've tried to combine Dataverse and approvals, and twice that it didn't quite get there.
But interesting that you just changed. All you did was change. You just fixed Dataverse, and it took out the for each.
You're right.
But everything else is the same, which is kind of odd. So, but I mean, it's still learning too, right? Like the AI itself is learning, so it's gonna take some time to pick some of that up. But
keep my fingers on the right keys. What if we do and send an email? It should be the same thing, right? Nothing.
You should try. Oh yeah, with approved.
There we go.
Oh, look at this. A couple of options, which is kind of cool. They look exactly the same.
An email. They are exactly the same. I wonder why I got both.
I wonder if I would like one of those emails to be within the condition.
It would. Yeah, let's take a look at this and see what it looks like on our flow canvas, shall we? Oh, I don't have any Microsoft Forms. Here, untitled form. All right, so this is interesting because before we weren't able to configure anything until we got to the actual flow canvas. So this is neat. I like this.
So it's basically saying, okay, you've identified things that we need parameters for. So give me all the parameters here.
Yes, and when we first looked at this back in November, everything we added here didn't come over. Remember, we'd put some stuff here. And then when we go to create flow, it just wouldn't transfer over. Here we got. It grabbed the form.
It took the form. That's
it had
great.
The response details. It got the approval type. And here's our
Notice
conditional.
Our email must be in the condition. That's awesome.
That's really cool.
It is in the right branch.
It did not bring the body of the email over. That's odd that everything else transferred over, but the body of the email did not.
And the other thing we're missing is our condition doesn't say we want the approved.
If approved, right. So if the outcome is approve.
But what a great start.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's improvements. Yeah.
Definitely forward progress, which is so cool.
Yeah.
I like it. I like where they're headed with it.
I do too.
Where they're heading with it.
It's actually really impressive the progress that has been made in just a few weeks since we last looked at this. They've added approvals, they've added Dataverse. They seem to not work well together. I'm sure they will be in another few weeks. And a lot of the information that you configure in this describe it to design it interface before you get to the flow canvas pulls over.
And I think anybody who's been in the space for a while understands how rapid the cadence for release is. But anybody who's brand new to this stuff, who's just starting, this is the way it works. Like the feedback comes in, they are constantly iterating and evolving and enhancing these tools. So in a matter of a couple of weeks, we can check back and all of a sudden there's new features that we can take advantage of so don't ever get discouraged if you look for something and it's not there. It's not to say it's not on its way. Check the roadmaps, check the release guide, see what's coming up, because it's very likely that it's there. And if it's not, there are options, idea forums to put things into. So use those because they do listen.
And especially with this AI stuff, are new enhancements coming all the time? Because just like that, this is not what I want, that's continuing to teach it. So the more people who use this, the better it will become.
Cool.
Yeah, and I believe there's somewhere on here where you can submit feedback. Right here, send feedback. So they read all of this. So if you have additional feedback when you get to this point, like we should probably send some feedback. How would you rate your description? I'll give you a 3. What's working well? So let's say when I enter text for an email message body, it does not transfer to the flow. Boom. So now we send our feedback.
If we check back in a few weeks, we should be able to trigger an order to Starbucks, have it delivered, maybe mobile pickup. Just throwing ideas out if you're listening.
Yeah,
I'm sure there is like a DoorDash connector.
Probably.
I don't think there is, but there could be. Who would like to build it? Awesome.
I
Any
think
final
Cool.
thoughts on these?
the only
Marty?
last thing I'm thinking about is how, when we have Dataverse in these flows, how does this fit in with solutions, right? So previously is that all resolved? You couldn't, some flows that you created outside of a solution, you couldn't put in a solution. So I think that's just something we're going to have to figure out, like, is it going to make sense to use this to build enterprise level flows that I'm going to need to put in a solution and use my ALM processes and those kind of things? Like, we're just going to have to try it out.
Yeah, flows and solutions is always a complicated thing. For us, we still have one. We'll typically build one solution file and put all of our flows in there. Otherwise, they become really difficult to manage. But
yeah,
you bring up a really good point. So the flows that you create in this Describe It to Design It are not solution aware. They're just going to be stored in make.powerapps.com in your flows. They'll just be listed here, and you can pull them into a solution file after that if you'd like to do it that way.
So they are not automatically in a solution, but they are solution aware, that I could put them in a solution, right?
Better description.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today for the AI Describe It to Design It for Power Automate. We hope that you guys have found this interesting, and hopefully you'll try it out and let us know your thoughts and feedback in the comments below. Thank you.